going to add my spotlight. All right, awesome. I'm going to add my spotlight. Okay. All right, I'm going to admit everybody in, so folks are going to start coming in. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming on in to our Living Legends panel. I'm so excited to have you all here today. We're going to get things started in about 5 minutes. We're going to let the rest of our family members come on in so we can have this conversation.
Thanks for coming. Hello, hello.
Absolutely.
L'Oreal, do you want us to mute until we're talking?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably best to, just in case.
Okay.
Thank you.
See if I can find the mute.
I got you. I can mute you. You're good to go. Welcome, folks. Come on in. We're going to get things started in a few minutes. Thank you all so much for taking time out on your Sunday. Whether you're busy, whether you're relaxing, we're excited to have you with us for this really amazing conversation. Welcome, folks. Come on in. Thank you so much for coming today and taking out time in your busy day. We're excited to have you, and we're going to have a really good conversation with some of our women founders of AACHM. We're going to get things started in a few minutes. If people want to start off our conversation today with just dropping in the chat, where are you zooming in from? So let us know what city or state you're zooming in from so we can know who's with us on the call. Detroit, Michigan. Okay.
Romulus.
Romulus. Awesome. I see Ann Arbor. Chelsea, Michigan. That's awesome. ECI right next door. All right. Ypsilanti. All right, we're gonna go ahead and get things started in 1 minute. So my participants, if you want to grab any water or anything, even my attendees, get your little snack, get comfortable, and we're gonna be able to get in and get ready for a great conversation. Awesome. We're going to get things started. Thank you, everybody, so much for logging in to chat with us today. My name is Lario West. I'm the Executive Director of AACHM, and I am so honored to be moderating our conversation today with our living legends of AACHM. So we wanted to take space to honor some of our women founders who over 30 years ago took a chance, took determination, and began to start something that would change Washington County forever. So before we get started, we do have some amazing women on the call. But as always with AACHM, and whenever we start talking about the work of those that came before us, we want to take time to be able to honor our ancestors, right? And we want to be able to honor some of our women founders who are no longer here with us on this earth today, but are walking with us every day in spirit. So I'm going to go ahead and start up some libations for us. And if you don't know about libations, the way that they go is typically it's a pouring of some type of liquid. Today we'll be doing water. And you pour it into a container or into a plant or directly to the ground outside. And you say the name of somebody that you want to honor that's no longer with us on this earth. As you pour it, as I pour it, someone says a name and we say Ashe. So folks can come off mute for this. You all can put it in the chat and I'll bring it to be vocal. As I pour water, we're going to say some of those names of the women founders. You could say names of loved ones that have passed. Even if somebody you don't know personally, you're able to name them to honor them and bring them into this space, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and get things started. Letitia Bird. And when I say the name, you all say Ashe.
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 Shirley Martin.
Ashe. Lola Jones.
Ashe.
Shirley Bond.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Beverly Tyler.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Sean Martin.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Willie Edwards.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Lola Jones.
Ashe.
Mrs. Edwards.
Ashe.
Queen Stevenson.
Ashe.
Betty McDonald.
Ashe.
Joanne Hall.
Ashe.
Linnell Ransom.
Ashe.
Martha Graham.
Ashe.
Ade Bell Evans.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Malcolm Jamal Warner.
Ashe.
Dolores Booker.
Ashe.
Fred Hampton. Ashe.
Ashe.
Yes.
Annie
Willis
Eugenia
Patterson.
Bostock.
Ashe.
Annie Eugenia Bostock.
Ashe.
Willis Patterson.
Ashe. Ida B. Shelton.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Elizabeth Vance.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Jesse Jackson.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Melvin Parson.
Ashe. Joetta Mile.
Ashe.
Letitia Bird.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Anybody else on our last pour? We could just all yell out together, whoever's on our last pour. Madam CJ Walker.
Charles Jackson.
Ashe.
Ashe.
Javon Briggs.
Ashe.
And all those who supported us in the past.
Ashe.
And to those that was and is, we say
Ashe.
Ashe. Thank you all so much for taking time to do that. It's just so important that we honor those folks. When we all leave this earth, our legacies and our impact are still going to be uplifted and happening. So I'm just so happy to be able to reserve space and hold space for those who are no longer with us. So we just had about 10 more folks hop on in. So welcome to our call today. We're so excited to be having a panel on our living legends of AACHM. My name is Laria West. I'm the executive director at the African American Cultural and Historical Museum of Washtenaw County, and we are so happy to welcome you all here today. So before we get started with our panel, I want to give you all just a little insight into who we are and what we're doing now. So the AACHM has been around since 1993, and for over 30 years, we have been led by volunteers that are committed to preserving, researching, collecting, and exhibiting the stories of African Americans in Washtenaw County. We've been known as the Museum Without Walls. So for a long time, we didn't even have a physical space, but through partnerships, through collaborations, and community engagement, we've been able to share those stories, collect those stories, and continue to uplift African American life and history. We are now located at 3261 Lower Road, so we have a permanent home, what has been previously known as the Byrd Center, which is named after local educators David Byrd and Letitia Byrd, who are powerful activists in our community. David Byrd was a founding member of the Construction Technology Program at the Washtenaw Community College, and Letitia Byrd was a middle school teacher at Forsyth Middle School. She was the first Black school teacher there. She's a member of Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, and she's also a founder of the museum. And it was always her dream that our museum would be able to be in the Byrd Center. So in 2026, we're able to see that dream come to fruition. And we're also be able to see us to continue to build on the legacy of these ladies by having volunteers, members, and donors to be able to sustain our mission. So we invite you all to come and be volunteers. We are open on Saturdays and Sundays from 12 to 4. So we are completely volunteer ran on that end. Everybody you see when you come on the weekends are people who are committing their time and energy and resources to keeping our museum open for public access to all. We invite you all to be members, so be able to get access to some of the perks to being able to be a member and sustain our institution. And of course, and always, in this day and time, and in our sector, it's so important to be able to have donors that will sustain the everyday important work we're doing, like this program here today. So thank you all so much for coming, and let's get this panel started. If you all have questions, feel free to put them in the chat as well. We will have 10 minutes towards the end to be able to address questions, and we may be able to integrate them in questions we have throughout. So we want to be able to have you all get introduced to the ladies. We're going to have that happen through this first question. So we're going to talk about the seed of the vision. So looking back to those early clubhouse meetings, what was your role in starting AACHM? I want you all to start with letting us know what you're doing now briefly, what you were doing then, and let us know what was your role in starting the museum.
I think I want to be the first to speak on this one. I'm Vivian Light Johnson. I now live in Florida, Orange County, Florida, a little town called Ocoee, which has a history of its own. Look it up. It's a storied place. I'm spending my time being what I call the ultimate volunteer and the best grandma, great grandma in the world. But in terms of the museum itself, the chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated, Delta Psi Omega chapter, began with a meeting with the DuSable Museum's director, Dr. Margaret Burroughs, who challenged us to start a Black History Museum in Washtenaw County. And our chapter took on that challenge. And in a meeting, we sat around trying to figure out what community members would be great community members to help us get started on this adventure. But we wanted to make sure that the entire Washtenaw County was represented. And so that's how the very first meeting came to fruition, is because the members of that chapter put together a list of names and invited people. And we're so grateful to all of the founding members who answered the call and helped us get this museum off the ground.
I'm Cheryl Irvin, And at the time, right now, I'm a retired teacher of 42 years, teaching in Ann Arbor and 1 year in Alabama, which would make 43. As you see, I probably can't count. So I've been out of the classroom for a long time. But anyway, at the time of the starting of the museum, I'm not a member of AKA, but I was invited by Joyce, and I saw my role as just being there and listening and giving input and finding out how to start a museum.
And my name is Joki Sandra Kamuyu. And in 1993, I had just been back from Nairobi, Kenya for a few years. I am a retired special education teacher. I have taught in Ypsilanti, Willerun, where I grew up, and in Nairobi, Kenya. And I remember the museum starting. I don't remember how. I think I really got involved because my brother also was a founding member, and I think he invited me. I remember him and Sean talking about it, and I think they invited me to participate. And I wasn't on any particular committee, but I was there to work, and I remember all the fundraisers and all that work. So yeah.
And I'm gonna try not to get in trouble here, but I'm naming Mormon, but my mom is Reverend Dr. Francie Mormon from Ypsilanti, and you all know her, and she which would need to talk with Miss Johnson here, could explain everything. But we've been here in Virginia now, our home place, since 2018, and she retired back here after what 40 something years, and everything she's done between the Willerun school system and then Church of God, associate pastor there. So we're here right now and enjoying life. And she has a small church here that her father once pastored, and she took it over. They asked her to about 3 years ago, and mom doesn't know how to say no. So here we are again, and we're blessed. All I can tell you, we're blessed. I lived in Chicago for 25 years, and I came down here after it was -2 in Chicago and 55 degrees down here. So, and I stayed. So that's it.
I'm Patricia King. I remember Willie Edwards invited me to the AKA Founders Day, which was really nice, I thought. Dr. Burrow offered us to become involved, everybody in the community. At that time, I wasn't an AKA. I later became an AKA, but I was involved in the museum before I became an AKA. And what I found really amazing is how they came about the name for the museum at the first meeting. I thought that was wonderful because a lot of people wanted to call it the African American Culture and Historical Museum. But people in it, all this, Dr. Mormon was one of the main ones, spoke up and said we need to include everybody. And so that's how they came up with the name of Washtenaw African American Culture and Historical Museum of Washtenaw County. And over the years, we had such a long name, people want to drop it off of Washtenaw County, but we have insisted that that be part of our name.
Well, I guess I'll go next. I am Reverend Dr. Cheryl Barnes. I am currently living on the East Coast, but I'm from Detroit and found my way into Ypsilanti after attending the University of Michigan. And I'm a member of Delta Sigma Theta, but the reason why I want to mention that is the sisterhood that goes across all kinds of affiliations. And my friends here in New Haven, Connecticut, tease me. In fact, today I had on all pink, and they always tease me, my AKA friends, but I let them know that I would not be who I am had it not been for my sisters in other sororities. Dr. Ruth Mormon, and I could just name the women who served on my master's degree committees, on my first PhD committee, who helped me with my second PhD, and I have a doctorate in theology. And so just a shout out to women who love on other women and who encourage beyond any kind of demarcations and any kind of lines. I'm trying to remember how I got invited because of my connection with Vivian Light, who I love and who I've always looked up to. But I'm pretty sure that it was Joyce Hunter. And because it was so long ago, it's not just the time, but in 1993, I was married and my husband was murdered immediately after I got married. So some things are just a little bit of a blur, but I absolutely remember being asked, and that being, it resonated with what I have always believed in, that if we don't tell our story, other people will, and I don't trust other people to ever tell my story, collectively or individually. And so I'm so honored to be here, and just thank you for allowing me to have been a part of this journey.
So hello, everyone. My name is Joyce Hunter, and I'm a retired educator from Ann Arbor Public Schools. I started as a classroom teacher, went to class administrator, and ended as assistant superintendent for secondary education. And so my memories of the getting started had to do, and somebody's maybe already mentioned that, had to do with our first meeting at Weatherstone Clubhouse. And so also later on, we reached out to, well, let me go back up. We also, Dr. Burroughs came. She was our keynote speaker at our Founders Day. Vivian had mentioned that, and so had Pat. She was a keynote speaker. And at that meeting, she challenged us, as Vivian said. We then later we took a team and we went to the DuSable Museum to visit her. At that time, she was still with us. So we went over there to get some instruction and education about starting a museum, because none of us had. In addition to that, later on, we invited Dr. Charles H. Wright to come and meet with us. And Vivian has that picture someplace, which she's going to get to us. So he and his wife came and gave us some instructions about how to start a museum, because like I said, none of us had ever started a museum.
Awesome. Thank you all so much for sharing. I'm already hearing gems. I'm hearing some things I have heard before, but you all are really looping in those details that I haven't heard before. So that is really great. Thinking about collaboration and support you all got. So I want to talk about, I want to know, what was people's feedback as soon as you went home that day, or within 15 days of hearing from Dr. Margaret Burroughs? What was the feedback that people gave you all, or responses people had when you said, hey, we're about to start this African American museum?
Mm.
And it could be good or bad, because despite whatever feedback there was, we're here 30 years later.
And that's the point. 30 years later, trying to remember.
The feedback.
And I did not say I'm an educator as well. I spent my career in Willow Run Schools and Washtenaw Intermediate School District. And then I came down here. I was principal for a little bit. So educators at heart. But I don't remember anything but excitement, the recognition that we need to do a lot of learning to make this happen. But I just don't remember that there may have been naysayers, but I tend to not remember those kind of things anyway. But I just, everybody that I can recall, just like Joki said, people just came in and put their hands to the plow to figure out where would their fit be, and how we could advance it forward. And Cheryl, I appreciate what you said, because that was exactly the spirit that we had. Even though the chapter got that seed, the chapter wanted to make sure that the seed was a seed that was is a mustard seed, but it had lots of different parts within it. And so I am grateful that you said that, because that's certainly the spirit. And to see the work that's being done still today with that same spirit is awesome and amazing.
Absolutely. Okay, thank you for sharing that. So I'm curious about whenever you want to start something new, especially something folks haven't seen before, every movement has its hurdles. So what is one memory of a challenge you faced in those earlier years that now makes you proud to see how far the museum has come?
This is Cheryl Urban. I remember the challenge of trying to explain how we were a museum without walls, having a place. And so people really didn't see us as legit, because they were used to going to a place to see something. And we were this museum that didn't have a place, but we had exhibits that they could see, that we could bring to them. And so that's how we became known as the museum without walls. But now that we have walls, we still can go beyond those walls and still be that museum.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
I want to add to that, follow up with Vivian and Cheryl. So the hurdle was that we didn't have a space. And I can remember Lola Jones came to us and said, it's time we had an address. Now, we didn't have any money to really rent a place or buy a place. So she did some research, and she found the New Center for us. I don't know if you all are familiar with this, out on Main Street.
Mm-hmm.
It's there for nonprofits. So she put us on the wait list. And our first space, it took a while. We call it incubator space. And what that involved was that we had an address now. So that if somebody said, "Where's your address?" we had that. Also, they had meeting rooms. So we could use that space to meet. So that was our first real location. And I think we were supposed to stay there for a few months. We were there about 8 months, I think. We were there longer than what we were supposed to, but they let us stay. So I just wanted to add that to what Cheryl and Vivian was saying.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, Joyce. And so something that was just brung up was talking about the museum's legacy and reputation as being known as a museum without walls. So I always talk about the history of a museum without walls, because before we even got to rent a space and especially have a space, you all were just out in the community making things happen.
Mm-hmm.
There was no physical place. Y'all were out there giving the history, learning the history, and sharing the history. So I want to talk about how has that unique identity of not having a physical place allowed the organization to tell stories that a traditional building might have missed.
I think not having the walls at first, when you look back on it, was a good thing because it enabled us to get out into the community and talk to the community ourselves and welcome the community, because these days museums are having a hard time, or they're addressing that issue of some people, some communities not feeling welcome in the traditional museum space. And we didn't have that problem because we were part of the community that we were talking to, which was a plus. And we were telling our stories our way in the spaces that we chose. And so I think it was, even though it was a struggle and we do need a space, but that was a positive that we could do it in our own way. And the people who we were addressing felt welcome because we were a part of them.
Absolutely.
And I just want to add to that our exhibits were not tied to walls or permanent places. We could move our exhibits around, so it wasn't hard for us to do that. And as you see nowadays, I call them pop-up museums. People are coming up, putting up displays in any space that they can find, and all of a sudden it becomes an attraction, and people start to come in there. They come. You see museums about cars and people and things that went on in certain communities, and they're not permanent. They're just more portable. So you can see that happening nowadays, and I think I like to think that started from us.
Absolutely.
You're gonna claim it, her, Cheryl.
I'm claiming it.
Hey, so somebody disproves it. We can claim it. Trailblazers, absolutely.
Yeah, I want to add to the fact that we're able to do that because of partnerships. We didn't have malls, but I absolutely an advocate for partnerships. And Vivian probably will not remember this, maybe she will. But one of our very big partnership was with the University of Michigan, the Underground Railroad Research. It was a 4-year project. And we collaborated with them to do that. And Willie Edward was the librarian on our board, and she was on that. And so was Lola Jones and Shirley Vaughn. But I can remember when we started that partnership, it was one of our first ones. Vivian was serving as president of the chapter, AKs, I think. And she was also obviously on the museum board. And she said, well, we need to be sure that we sign something so our name is out there. It's not just us doing the work and we never get heard of. So, baby, I don't know if you remember that, but you were adamant about that. So that was one of our first partnerships, and we're still doing it now. So partnerships really made a difference in moving us forward. Even though we didn't have the money, we didn't have buildings, and we had never started a museum, it was through partnerships that really helped us a lot.
Absolutely. And I would say even with my day-to-day work, that's just one thing that's one of my favorite parts as well. Partnerships, collaborations, community engagements, they're essentially going to be the foundational pillar to any work that we want to do in the community or just with other organizations, because it's so important that we work together. So that leads us into our next question. I'm curious about what is one of you all's favorite partnerships, collaborations, or exhibits that you've done with the museum? Or that you've seen happen, because maybe you weren't involved in that project, but one of your favorite things the museum has done.
One of the things, this Pat King, one of the things I really love about the museum is the Underground Railroad program. That program brings in a lot of attention to the museum. People really love that program. And Underground Railroad don't make money, but they get a lot of attention, like I said. Joyce, you can speak on the Underground Railroad probably better than I can.
You're doing just fine, Pat. Keep going.
Well, the program brings in young adults, older people. The community loves the program. Being the treasurer, I know what programs that get the attention in the community. And the Underground Railroad is one of them. From the schools, the churches, people just love it. Mm-hmm. And that's one of my favorite programs in the museum.
I like to add to that with the Underground Railroad. You go on that tour, you'll be surprised that you are passing by buildings that were part of the Underground Railroad, and you had no idea that building or place was part of it. And the Underground Railroad was Ann Arbor and Ypsilanti. Mm-hmm. We have both tours, and just going to the cemeteries and look at the history and finding just going there and looking at the history that's in the cemeteries. And I thought that was exciting. And nowadays, I don't know, since a lot of people getting cremated, I don't know if we're going to be able to go to the cemeteries and find some history. No.
I like to follow up. Cheryl is correct. The museum right now is working with Woodlawn Cemetery, a cemetery in Ypsilanti that's over 100 years old. It's a Black cemetery. They are working at the cemetery now, and the museum is collaborating with them. And you'd be surprised at the people I have came in contact with just because of the work that they are doing in the cemetery. Black history, going back to Black history. That cemetery been there 100 years and haven't been kept up with anything. Now they had cut down the trees. They're finding headstones and everything. Finding people, family. I went to a meeting last week where ancestors was there, and it's very exciting to hear these people talk about they have found their uncle, they have found their great grandmother burial grounds. And basically, I just like to say that's our history that's out there that we don't know nothing about.
Mhm.
And I want to add to that, because when Cheryl said it, you know, people, you walk past places when you're on that Underground Railroad tour, you go past places that are right there in your own community. I think it's powerful for young people, especially, to see that history is not abstract. Every day, history is made, and it's in your community. So I think that is really a really powerful thing that the museum has done, is to make history alive for the young people in our communities.
You know, when you talk about
Well, I think another program we have is the oral history program.
About Ground Railroad. Go ahead, add something.
I was going to say
Are we
that
frozen?
to push that forward a little bit, the whole living history, when the interviews that you all have been doing, since I see most of things from online. When I come home, I get to see a little bit, but most things I'm online. And that whole period during COVID was just amazing. The work that you all were doing during COVID and the programs you put on online. So all of that comes together to form that history in terms of Washtenaw County.
We had a great jazz and dinner event. We did jazz and dinner.
Can you hear me?
Can you hear me?
Now
it's like we're breaking up. Is everything okay, L'Oreal?
Yes, we can hear you now. I think it might be on your end, because I think everything's good this way.
Okay.
But we can hear you now.
Okay, I want to just add to a couple of things. I just want to call out Willie Edwards' name. I think I mentioned Willie, but she originally would do those tours, and she was awesome, no notes. And I tried to get her to let us videotape her, and she didn't feel like it was needed. Deborah does a good job, excellent job now, and Willie did training of her. So I just wanted to mention that as well. The other project that Cheryl started to mention was the Living Oral History Project. This is going to like our 12th year. And we've interviewed over 60 people that lived in Ann Arbor, Ypsi, all or most of their lives. And the outgrowth of that has been the interviews, then an exhibit, and then a digital collection, a walk-in tour, and now we're doing murals based on that. So all of that started with the interviews, and now we got all those parts to go along with that. So that's an important project as well. And I think it was L'Oreal, and I was online with the library, and they mentioned that a lot of people come online to do research using that information, as I recall, L'Oreal. I think that's what they said.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Thank you all. Oh, yeah. Somebody else want to add?
Yes, I just wanted to shout out another program that we had that people enjoyed, and that was the jazz and dinner that we will have in December. And that was just a thank you for people participating in the museum. And we will have this event in December, and it was like a kickoff to the holidays. And people came and they just had fun. We had Ron Brooks and his members who came, of this band who came and sang and played for us. And we started at the Bird of Paradise. And then we went to the country club, Washtenaw Country Club, and from there to the hotels. So It was just a wonderful event and people loved it. And they still ask us, when are we going to do another jazz and dinner? When are you going to have another jazz and dinner? So that's something that people remember. And it wasn't really like a fundraiser. It was just to get some funds to help us keep our rent at the Byrd Center and keep the lights on. But it was more like a thank you to the community.
Absolutely. Okay, well, thank y'all for sharing those. Some of those we know about, some of those I haven't heard of. So it's very helpful for us when we talk about what we want to bring back. So how do we build on that legacy? How do we do a modern day reiteration of it? And then how do we also use that just to inspire how we continue to impact the community? So we have about 15 more minutes for our conversation. I want to just ping our participants, our audience, to be able to drop some questions in the chat if you have them, because it's going to be about time for Q&A. So I want to be able to bring those in. Something I want to speak to. So as the executive director and currently the only paid staff member, my daily workload touches kind of every point of the museum, whether that's fundraising, volunteers, membership, community engagement. So I'm curious to you all, as we welcome our new volunteers, as we welcome our new members and our supporters who are just starting their journey with AACHM, what is one piece of wisdom that you want them to carry forward?
Well, this is Cheryl Urban. I would say stay connected to your history.
Mm-hmm.
Our history is on the attack, and we have to know our histories in order to defend our history if we have to. And a museum helps you to do that. And we should seek others who have stories to tell, such as our relatives that sometimes we don't ask many things of them, but they have stories that they haven't told because many times we don't like to share. So that would be a good time to get more, learn more about our history. So that's what I would say to new members.
And I agree with that because our communal stories reinforce the truth that we are somebody. And we need to keep telling that story to our children and our grandchildren and everybody that we are somebody.
I would like for us to somebody to come out about the Bible. It's a Bible that no other one has ever been able to come above it. And the thoughts, biblically, yes. Oh, Lord, yes. I know otherwise we use them. But I'm just saying,
in the history,
if we stop and just sit down and spend quite a bit of time on study first about that. How can it be one self? That's all I'm saying. There's one Bible, one book, and it has
help
not
us all
yet,
our history,
because man did not build this large, beautiful earth and making it so much, continuing to make it so beautiful.
Yes, on its own.
And that's where I'm working and struggling. And in other words, I'm talking about what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I just sitting until a whole lot of us get it. When I can do what I'm supposed to do.
Yeah.
Let me put it back that way.
Yeah, and just share.
That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
And I'm having a beautiful year in the midst of sickness, and I'm leaving, in the midst of sickness, and very few, very several that I even have a hurt. It's all. Thank you. I have enjoyed this night.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you.
I just said, I don't have it. People keep thinking they supposed to come to see me.
Good.
Thank you.
L'Oreal, I'd like to speak to that just briefly. In terms of wisdom that I would like to pass on, actually, it's three things, and I'll be brief. One piece of advice or wisdom I would recommend is that we not be ashamed of our history, that we own all of it. All of it. Because if we leave out parts that make us uncomfortable, it is not truly who we are. So that means sometimes we have to deal with the fact that out of our own trauma, we've hurt one another. Colorism, it's just a number of things. But I think that when we, again, tell our own story, then it becomes a part of our healing process. Another piece of like wisdom I think I would share is that we make a commitment as we are collecting information to see each other truly as our sisters and brothers. I am glad I've been blessed to live this long, because I think not just chronologically, but spiritually, the longer I live, the more appreciative I am of everyone who has been on the journey with me, who are still on the journey with me. So I think when you are maybe, and it may or may not correlate with age, but when you're less mature, I'll put it that way, you can see other people as competitors when they are not. They are truly your sister and your brother. And because I do believe as a people we are clearly under attack now, my seeing others as my sister and brother, just like in a real biological family, you just know, well, that's cousin so and so, or they always cut up like that at the cookout. They always late, and coincidentally, they don't ever bring anything, and the first one to get the carry-out container. So it's like a grace that can be extended to one another as we are taking more of I guess, more effort to collect our stories and to preserve them. And then the third and final thing is that we reject false divides. I started out talking about being a Delta, but the AKs in my life, trust me, there are Deltas in my lives and other folk. But I think false divides are something we got to be more sensitive to, because no matter where I've gone, it's just something about, I was teaching one time at Washtenaw Community College. I'm teaching a philosophy class. I'm standing up against the wall waiting for students to come out of the classroom so that I could go in. And older than me at that time, an older Black woman came up to me and she smiled and rubbed her hand. And what she was saying later is like, it's good to see, in fact, she said, it's good to see some of us older ones going to school. So I smile and say, We go into the classroom. She sits down. I walk up to the board, poor professor. My name was White at that time. And so to me, it was so sweet. I didn't need to correct her. I didn't need to tell her I'm the professor. So I'm more sensitive to false divides. If you've been to college, if you haven't, if you got several initials behind your name, if you have none, if you have, whatever. My friends here tease me because I didn't go to an HBCU. I say all them universities, they got my money and y'all. So I just pray that we will be more sensitive to not letting others delude us or trick us into holding up things that falsely divide us. We are here because we truly are standing on the shoulders of a whole bunch of other people, and we are the beneficiaries of a whole bunch of other people's prayers. And so those would be three things that I hope, people who continue to build on the museum will keep in mind. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that. Anybody else want to share out briefly for that question?
This is Pat King. I would say my advice would be, when you're making decisions concerning the museum, that you always make the decision based on what's best for the museum.
I agree with that, Pat, and I really, this has been such a blessing conversation for me. I've been away so long, so to hear you all's voices and to get reminded of our work, and that's what I would say to a young person coming to the museum, is to learn the history of the museum. If you're going to work there, you do a deep dive and learn the history of the museum for yourself, because then you would understand that this museum, and I thank God it continues to be, Cheryl, a museum of unity.
Mhm.
That the focus is on the unity of Washtenaw County.
Mhm.
And I'm reminded of the African proverb, until the lion learns to tell his story, the hunter will always get the glory. And it is needed now more than ever today that we have this museum. And I just thank God that he allowed me to be one small part of what he saw in the future. Then that having these things, and I think that even Dr. Burroughs had even 1993, that was her big concern, is if you don't have these storage places, then your story will get diluted. And so I would encourage a young person to do that. And because they're a young person, I would task them for bringing their sisters and brother generation along the journey. Because anybody who's coming to the museum as a young person doing this work, they're already, not for division, but they're a different kind of person. Because unfortunately, I don't know about you all, I hear a lot of people say to me, I don't want to hear that. And it makes me sad, but I have enough wisdom, Cheryl, to know that they're young and they'll learn. My job is, my parents used to say, I'm going to tell it to you so I know you heard it. Because if I don't tell it to you, I don't know if you know. You may not do a thing with it, but I'm going to share it with you. And so that's what I would encourage any young person coming to the museum, and actually any person who would come to any of our spaces to be thinking about.
Absolutely. That was beautifully put. So thank you so much for adding that. As we actually wrap up our conversation, this time has flown by. I want to be able to give you all our last question and give you a little bit of time to think on it as I introduce a few more things from the museum. So our last question is, as we look forward to 2027 and beyond, in our 35th anniversary as well, the next couple years, I want to ask each of our founders for just one word that represents your greatest hope or dream realized for the future of the museum. So, what is one word that represents your greatest hope or dream realized for the future of our museum? You can take a few minutes to think on that. I'm going to share a couple announcements for the museum. For those who have joined us, we had a few folks join us in the middle of our conversation. My name is Lario West. I'm the executive director of the African American Cultural and Historical Museum, and you have joined us today for the Living Legends of AACHM panel. So this Women's History Month, which is also around the museum's Founders Day, we wanted to take time to honor, to hear from, and to uplift the stories and memories from some of our women founders. And that's exactly what we've done today through our conversation. We've heard some folks talk about Woodlawn Cemetery. We've heard some folks talk about Black History in Washtenaw County. And right now, we actually have two exhibits that are available for you to come and see at the museum at 3261 Lower Road in Ann Arbor. We are off of Lower Road and Ann Arbor Saline Road. So the first exhibit is about Black history of Washtenaw County, 200 years of that history. That's an evolving exhibit. So you'll come in today and see one set of information, and the next 4 or 5 months we'll have additional information. So you all can come and visit for that. And then also we have a exhibit on Woodlawn Cemetery, which is a historically Black-owned cemetery that kind of went to ruins in the past 50 to 60 years. And our museum is leading the coalition and community effort to be able to restore that cemetery to dignity, as well as lead a descendant project. So we're accessing those folks' graves and figuring out what's going on with the gravesite, interacting with those descendants, getting those stories, and being able to connect people to heritage, local and family heritage. So we invite you all to come on out. We're generally open on Saturdays and Sundays, 12 to 4. We are very much volunteer powered. So we would love for you all to sign up for our volunteer orientation to support our organization. We're very much member fueled too. So when people contribute as members and contribute to the ecosystem we're creating, we're helping to sustain our organization. And also we always welcome donors, whether that's individuals or organizations that want to continue to keep this museum flowing and going for the next 35 years. So I'm going to get it back to my panelists. Would love to hear one word from each of you all that represents your greatest hope or dream that's realized for the future of our museum. One word or your greatest hope that talks about your dream realized for the museum's future.
I can't do it in one word.
I'll give you 3.
Okay, be that resource.
Be that resource. Thank you for sharing that, Cheryl.
Okay.
Who else?
Miss Pat, I'll say strength. Have the strength to go forward, to not only learn, but teach.
Absolutely. Thank you, Pat. Patricia.
I'd say preserve the legacy.
Preserve the legacy. That's awesome. Thank you, Reverend Soror.
Because she is a soror. You got that in.
I had to.
I want to do a little. I will say sustainable. This is, I wanted to see it be there when I'm no longer around. Sustained.
I want to do a little privileged thing here. I know you're trying to wrap up, but I don't want to leave this space without saying to Joyce Hunter how much I appreciate her.
Yes.
In the arms, the legs, the tentacles of the museum for all of these years. Because I think for me, I don't know where we'd be if she weren't the anchor for the museum. So I just want to publicly say, I said it to her. I say it to her every time I talk to her. Thank you, thank you, thank you. For me, I guess I'm like everybody else trying to think of one word, but I'm praying that the Lord will enlarge your territory of reach and impact.
Yes, I receive that. Thank you for sharing. And yeah, shout out to Joyce. Thank you, Joyce, for all the work you've done to convene. I wanted to acknowledge as well that Patricia King and Joyce Hunter are still on our board. So they are founders who are able to still be active with the organization and help lead some of the choices and the partnerships and the things that we do. So thank you all for showing up in that role as well. All right. Anybody else share out?
Yeah, my word was perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
Keep on keeping on. Just keep on. It's sometimes when things take a long time and they're hard, we give up. But I want to encourage the board and the whole museum to just keep on.
Keep on keeping on. I received that. Thank you, Joki.
And I want to just add, I don't know what you're going to say for wrap up, L'Oreal, but I just want to thank L'Oreal for doing this. It was her idea. And I just really appreciate that because the history of this organization is so important to me that it's told and it's not lost. So thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Everybody shared out, right? I want to make sure. Okay, awesome. Well, it's very much an honor to be here. I was moderating the panel, but really I was just a listener and just throwing you all the questions. You all shared a lot of gems today. And like we've talked about before, and I want to share with our audience, this is our first time really holding space in this way for our women founders, but it's not our last. We are looking to ideally do something annually to be able to just hold space for our founders and some of our women founders to continue to share these stories, to continue to have moments of connectivity and community, and to be able to just celebrate heritage, which we know is the African American Cultural and Historical Museum of Washington County's way. So thank you all so much for coming on this panel and call today. We appreciate our panelists for coming on and making time. We've got women that are all over the country in all different walks of life that made time to be here virtually with us. So can we see some love in the chat? We're seeing applauses. We're seeing hearts. Thank you all so much for your great energy. This is live streaming on YouTube as well. So everyone will be able to go back and access this if you want to review it, if you want to share it. It'll be on our socials and our newsletter as well. So thank you all for coming to this event today. We appreciate y'all. Y'all have a good day.
Thank you. And thanks to all our listeners.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Hello, Reverend Dr. Cheryl. It's so good to see you. Soror.
Hi, how are you?
Wonderful. It's